Welcome to my Streamlabs Desktop tutorial course. You all have been requesting this for years, and shouts out to Streamlabs for sponsoring this course so that I could finally bring this to you all. We're going to be checking out everything you need to know to get up and running with live streaming and recording with Streamlabs Desktop. In this first video, we are covering everything for building your first scenes, getting a basic stream layout going, checking out what Streamlabs has to offer that you can download onto your stream files, and all of that kind of stuff. And then in future episodes, we'll dive into optimizing your audio settings, your video settings, using the Cloudbot, the dual output and multi-streaming tech, along with a bunch of other stuff. Again, thanks to Streamlabs for sponsoring this course. Playlist link will be in the video description. I'm EposVox, the Stream Professor. Let's flip on over to the desktop and check it out. All right, if you haven't installed Streamlabs Desktop already, head on over to your Streamlabs dashboard, and then at the very top should be Download Streamlabs. Go ahead and click that, and run the installer, and run Streamlabs Desktop. Approve whatever admin prompts may show up, and yours will look a little something like this. So we are going to build a couple basic scenes here in Streamlabs Desktop with overlays you can get in the application itself, and add in our webcam, our capture card, and things like that, so we can get up and running as quickly as possible. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the UI. Let's get familiar with it. Let's not get overwhelmed. A lot of people, when I make these tutorials, they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much on screen. What am I supposed to do? So let's take it slow and divide the UI by segments. And if I am a smart YouTuber, I will highlight each of these in editing as I talk about it. Yes, that's a message for myself. I understand. Over on the left, you have your menu. This may be collapsed for you. You have your menu of different things you can do within Streamlabs Desktop itself. So you've got your editors, you've got your overlay kind of store of sorts, your app store, a highlighter for clips, and then your recordings manager, and then some other settings and your account manager here. So that's a little hidden thing that you can access. Over on the right side, you got another hidden one, which can show you your stream viewers and your chat. That will load in here. And so again, you can tuck that away or resize it as you desire. I'm going to keep hiding things as I can so that you can focus on what I'm talking about. This big black square is going to be your stream preview. This is what is going to be shown to your viewers. So obviously nothing yet, which is why we're doing this. Below that is your mini feed, which is recent events, so people subscribing to your stream, bits, and so on. Then you have your scenes. So these are going to be groups. Scenes are groups of sources. Sources are right here. Sources being your webcam, your capture card, your images, your videos, your desktop. Those kinds of things are sources, and scenes are collections of sources that you use for different purposes. So you might arrange your sources in a certain way for a be right back screen to say, hey, I'm running to the bathroom. You might arrange them differently when you're just chatting in your webcam instead of playing a game or teaching something. You may have a different one for when you're focusing on your art, either on screen or in a camera, gameplay capture, and so on. To the right of both of these is your audio mixer. So this is where your microphone, your computer sound, things like that will be. And in the very bottom bar will be important notifications, news about the app, your performance stats for the program itself, as well as record, highlight buttons, and go live buttons. So pretty easily dividable UI, but you can change it if you want. If you come over here to the editor section and then choose a layout editor, you can actually completely change how your Streamlabs UI looks. This is really powerful, and you have a lot of presets here. So mini feed on the left, editor, scene, source, audio, editor, mini feed, scene, source, audio, bunch of squares. You can control it however you want. I am going to leave it on the default for at least these first few videos so I don't confuse anyone. But I highly recommend after you've set up, followed a couple of these videos, set up your stream, things like that. Once you're comfortable with it a little bit and you have put it to use, I recommend playing with the presets or dragging and dropping and customizing where you want things to go and making it yours, because changing the UI to fit what you actually use regularly will make a huge impact on the usability of any program, but especially streaming, which is kind of not high intensity, but a lot is happening at once and in real time. So you want everything to be exactly where you want it. Again, I'm going to leave it on default for now, just so I don't confuse anyone. So if you want to get started with the basics of just adding your webcam, your microphone, and things like that, we don't have to mess with a whole lot yet. We can just come over here to our sources and we'll add a webcam. So I clicked plus, if you didn't see that, next to sources here. And we have a bunch of different categories. You've got alerts, gameplay captures, color, text, all sorts of things, which may be overwhelming, but we are just looking for video and audio and video capture. So our camera, I'm gonna click that. I'm gonna click add source. We'll call this webcam. And then I need to choose my webcam. Here we're using the Logitech MX Brio, a 4K webcam, which is actually pretty nice. The default settings with most of these USB webcams is never the best settings for them just because of the way the Windows driver works. So I want to come over here and choose 4K 30 if I want the 4K video. And it's going to be way bigger than my scene. Don't freak out. Right click it in the sources list here and go to transform and fit to screen. And if you want a full screen webcam, this applies to any device, whether it's smaller or bigger than your scene. So we'll make sure it fits in here. Center me up a little bit. Obviously, my background's a mess. I'm shipping a ton of packages for a whole lot of projects right now. Some of them going to you all that you have bought in my shop over at glitch.mov. So it's a big shipping day this week. So apologies for the mess. It will be cleaned up in most of the stuff you typically see. And then same thing if you have a capture card for gameplay, capture box, if you want to do your display capture. So for example, you can see how I'm recording this. I can add a display. This will be left monitor. And yep, it automatically chooses the correct capture method. You can manually choose which monitor you want it to choose and whether or not your cursor shows up. And again, it is too big for my screen. Right click, transform, fit to screen. We're already looking pretty good. Now, obviously, these two cannot be full screen on the same window. So something we will want to do is make a new scene. So over here in our little scenes list, we're going to right click our current scene and we're going to rename it. And we're going to call this one just webcam. And then I'm going to make a new one, and we're going to call this desktop. Now, before I delete my monitor capture from here, I'm going to click plus on the sources on my desktop scene, choose display capture, and we already have one ready to go. And then I can delete the original one out of this scene. Before we go too much further, you may notice this looks a little blurry, and there's some black bars on it. Our scene has not been set up appropriately for HD, and that is going to be one of the first questions I get of how do I change these settings. So we've added a webcam, we've added a monitor, and by this point you're probably looking at that text and being like, that doesn't look quite right. So let's set up our formatting real quick. We're going to go over here to settings in the bottom left, this little gear icon. We're going to go to video. You can see here at some point I enabled a weird custom resolution. Yours might be set to normal HD by default, and if so, that's great. We're going to come over here and just choose basic 1920 by 1080 and get all this fixed up the way it should be, and we're going to choose bicubic as the downscale filter. Now, this will not apply if these two numbers are the same. So don't worry about it. Bicubic looks better every time. And then for FPS, since we're streaming gameplay typically for this target audience, we want 60 frames per second in most cases. And then I'll click done. And you can see here our scenes are resized again because we just resized our entire canvas. The canvas is this black box that all of your elements fit into, you know, like an artist canvas. And so you need to size them accordingly. Now, since I shrunk my sources down to fit from 4K down to the scene, I right-click the source, transform, fit to screen. Hello. All right, we've added video sources. We've made sure our frame is correct. Now we're going to add audio sources. You see here our mixer. Our audio mixer is right here. If you click Settings cog, you can see some options for these sources, but you may not have sources yet. And if not, we want to go to Global Settings. And down here, you can choose 2 desktop audio devices. So we want to choose my audio mixer for desktop audio 1. We don't care about 2 right now. For microphone, we want our audio interface with this Logitech Yeti Studio microphone running into it. And now I can change levels to balance it out. So like typically you want your system sound to be a lot quieter than your microphone. You can change a bunch of nerdy stuff that we don't really need to mess with right now. And then you can come down here to your mixer and mute or unmute your audio tracks and change your levels here as well. And you see an indicator of when you get too loud. Oh, I just realized I turned down my microphone and not my speakers. There we go. So if you start getting too loud, you start bumping up towards the end. And if you're talking pretty normally but peaking, then you're around yellow. And then if you're just in the quiet, completely safe range, you're in the green. We'll have a whole episode of the course dedicated towards optimizing your audio devices as well. These are the basics of what you need for every scene and every profile and everything in Streamlabs Desktop. You need some video sources, which you add to your scene right here under sources. So capture card, display capture, webcam, whatever that is. You need some audio sources. And then you maybe need a scene or two to divide them up, like this. Next, we're going to get some fancy graphics and overlays that you can get from Streamlabs built into Streamlabs Desktop here. So if you expand your left panel and go to Overlays and then Scene, you can start browsing some graphics. Now, a bunch of these are available for free, and then there's some really, really nice high-end ones that are available with the Streamlabs Ultra subscription, which gets you a ton of free overlays and widgets and alerts, as well as Cloudbot, extra multi-streaming outputs, among other things. It's really great subscription if you are embedded here in the Streamlabs workflow. So you can see here we have a ton of different overlays. You've got ones that are really popular under the universally loved category. Featured ones that Streamlabs is just featuring. You can start browsing those. I explored the Sakura Blade one in my Streamlabs OBS plugin video. Then there's newly added trending ones for specific games like Marvel Rivals, Monster Hunter, and so on. Lots of options to browse. You can search keywords, types of streams, TikTok friendly, space, podcast, etc. We are going to go here to universally loved and just kind of browse what we got. Lo-Fi Cat, why not? Who wouldn't want a Lo-Fi Cat? This is one of the ones that's included with Ultra. The process will be the same whether you get an Ultra one or not. So you click select and install. And this is going to ask, do you want the overlays or the alert boxes or both? By default, both are checked, but you may want to mix and match. You may want overlays from one and alert boxes from another. Alerts, by the way, are what you're seeing here. Or if you get a tip or a follower, it pops up something on screen that says, hey, someone did this thing. I'm going to choose both because this layout looks neat. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to click install, and it's going to download and install just like from any sort of app store of sorts. Does all the work for you. You don't have to manually add any graphics, just your devices. And you can see here, you might the astute among you might notice above our scene list, it now says Lo-Fi Cat, whereas it said tutorial. In Streamlabs, you can have multiple scene collections, which are groups of scenes that you have made. This is useful for if you have different setups for, say, recording YouTube videos versus streaming on Twitch, or maybe you want different graphics for different games. You can set up any overlay sets you download from Streamlabs or your own scene collections separately here and switch back and forth between them, which is really cool. And here it's telling you that this specific scene actually has a folder with sources embedded in it, which will be useful because this is the main scene. So you presumably have your gameplay capture, added in the background. We'd have to fill that in and capture a gameplay source, which I'll show you in a moment. But it has a background just in case your game cuts out. But we also don't have our webcam added. Since this is a new scene collection, we need to double click the webcam capture and choose our MX Brio here and close. And it should load in just a sec. There we go. We are populated into this beautiful frame. So next we just need a game and to add that to our game capture source. We'll just go ahead and launch a reliable Splitgate here real quick. And for ease of use, I'll set it to window mode so I can quickly swap between them for you. But this game capture source will work whether you play in full screen or windowed or borderless. All right, there we go. We got the game running in a window real quick here just as a demo. And by default, it actually automatically detected it. So the game capture source was already configured by the theme creator to automatically detect a game. But if it doesn't, then you can choose capture a specific window and then choose your individual game you wish to capture. And then you can resize and lock and whatever from there. Scale filtering by cubic, recommended, yada, yada. And I'm already set up with a gameplay scene ready to capture and stream right here. We've got an intermission one. And some of these will come with vertical versions of these scenes here for doing vertical dual output streams to like TikTok or Instagram or whatever. If those are not hidden by default, you may want to hide those in the meantime until we set up dual output. But we've got intermission, which is going to show just like the lobby of our game while we're chatting and interacting with our chat. We've got a starting soon screen, which is beautiful, and these lovely stinger transitions that go between them. Clearly here we need to edit the social media scene to change our usernames. So we can come down here to social media, open that folder. And we got lots of folders here. We can choose custom icon, and here it lets us choose between these images. So we'll say, okay, that one. That one will be, we'll double click. We're double clicking these sources to edit them. This is a text source, which obviously lets us add text. EposVox, and click done. And again, double click for social media 3, this image source, we double click it. And these are set up really neat to where we just get to choose icons from a preset list, which is awesome. Double click the text again, eposvox.gg/discord. We'll want to resize that one a bit because I made it really long for my URL, but then we can use the arrow keys to move it down and center it. There we go. Social media 2, double click the image, let's say YouTube, double click the text, @EposVox. And lastly, number 1, that one is not lined up. Use the arrow keys. Boom. And number 1, custom icon. What do we want? What do we want? Let's do our website. And for the text, EposVox.com. EposVox.com. Shrink it just a touch. Now if we go back to our starting soon screen, this is a nested scene, which means they have taken the scene with all the text and added it as a source to another scene, which is a really cool concept and really powerful to let you start editing graphics as you move them across scenes, which is really handy here. So now we have our social media icons. Got a lot of beautiful little scenes going on with this layout. And it's all configured and ready for you. Now, of course, you can add more to it. So if we wanted to add a source to this stream over scene, we can click plus, and then we can add media files or browser sources for some sort of more complex overlays. You can add your chat here, additional stream labels, which would be like text that indicates that someone subscribed or tipped or whatever. You got tip goals, follower goals, bit goals, sponsor banners if you have sponsors for your streams. You can add a poll. Usually a pretty good idea if you're ending your stream. What play next? And this is going to interact with your Cloudbot, which we'll definitely be setting up in a separate video. But you can change what type of poll, either by Cloudbot or Twitch. You can change colors, fade time, change the font, change the bars, all of that. Add source, brings up the poll here, and then once you're actually live and can fire it with your Cloudbot, it would show up there. I'm obviously not live. I'm obviously not live at this exact moment. Lots of additional widgets, including mini-game widgets that your chat can play, emote walls if people start adding emotes from your chat, which is always fun. So we can just resize that to fit our screen, and then as people emote in your chat as your stream is ending, they will show up there. Let's add another widget. We're going to be on our Be Right Back scene, and let's say we want our viewers to stick around. We don't want them to run away. Let's add a mini-game. So we're going to add a new source here. We're going to come down to Game Widget. Add source. BRB minigame. Now you have a couple different games you can choose from. You've got tic-tac-toe as well as chat word, which looks to be, I guess, like Wordle. So we're going to go with that one. We're going to call this BRB game as the command. You can customize the colors, whatever you want. Pretty neat. And then you can just kind of drag it over here where you would want it to go. And then while you're on your BRB screen, your chat can play, which is pretty neat. I think these features are fun when used appropriately, and I think that adds a fair bit to your stream. There is a lot of sources you can manage this way, a lot of goofy little things, like there's a stream boss where your subs can fight each other by doing bits and subs and things like that to take over. You can add like end credits at the end of your stream. So let's go over to our stream ending scene here. We can add credits. We'll call it end credits. And then we're going to have tips, follows, subscribers. And you can see by default it's in this like Star Wars style, which is sick. Visual settings is where you can customize it. So that one's called the crawl. Default is just white up like an old school movie credit. You've got geometric, which does these little like, almost looks like alerts you could do here. Bubbly, does bubbles for it. Handwritten, stars. You get the idea. I think this is pretty cool. And I would say if it's on our end scene, maybe we don't loop it. And we'll just do default. And then we've added it to our scene here. We can make it full screen. I kind of want to see. I think as long as you can control where it shows up, having it just on this side with this kind of element here would look pretty good. So all of this has been playing around with the layouts available in Streamlabs Desktop, which is obviously a big part of the appeal. That's most of what you're going to be working with. It looks pretty good. But what if you want to import some scenes from OBS itself? What would you do? Well, over here where it says Lo-Fi Cat, since that's the theme that we picked, you have a Manage Scene Collections button. Let's click that. Here you have some additional options. You can see your other scene collections that you have. So you can see here I have a Nerd or Die layout. I've got a couple other scenes that I've just imported from various places. You can make a new one from fresh. You can make a new one from more templates in the library, or you can import from OBS. Or if you were using Twitch Studio at some point, you could import from there, but that program has since been abandoned by Twitch. So we're going to import from OBS, and this has loaded up all of my installed version of OBS's scenes. So in fact, we have the scene collection with the Sakura blade. Wow, my webcam is zoomed in. I did not have that set up the same on that scene collection. Hello! It even has the Sakura blade scene collection that we had from my first video where I did the Streamlabs OBS plugin. So now we have all of our OBS scenes here. And of course, then you can go into manage scene collections. You can rename these so you know which one's which. Like we have an untitled. We don't care about that. You can also delete them. You can also duplicate them. So if you want to start making changes to your scenes and you're not sure if you're going to like it, or maybe you'll break something, or you're going to do something pretty drastic, then you can duplicate it and then start editing that copy. And if you like what you like, then you can replace your original with the copy. I can delete that. I can delete these that are just called scenes, as well as this random preset one. Get a little bit organized. Organization will be key to really having a smooth flow once you get started with Streamlabs, or streaming in general. So now if we switch over to, what's Geometric Madness? I think that's another one I imported. Yeah, just a goofy looking one. So we have all of these available, which I think is pretty slick. Now let's say you're using the layout here. Let's go with the Sakura blade one. Let's say you're using what they have provided, but you also have something else you want a scene for. Maybe you want to add another camera or something. Let's say I want to take this just chatting scene that's already built. It already has all the elements and I want to reuse most of those elements, but I want to use a different camera. Well, we can do that. We can start by right-clicking our just chatting scene and choosing duplicate. We're going to call this second chat so that we have the same scene, but now we can just swap out our webcam for one from a different angle. Let's say in this view, we want to instead add a camera that's connected to my teleprompter over here. I'm going to add a new scene to nest this webcam. I believe adding devices like webcams or capture cards to their own scene and then using that scene as a source in another scene results in better flexibility for adding filters to those cameras and things like that. I'll cover that more in an advanced video in this course. So I'm going to add a new scene and we're going to call this Prompter Cam. I'm going to add a new source. We're going to do video capture and I'm going to add the camera. So if you don't want to use the one you already have selected, they have a nice little global sources menu here in Streamlabs. You click add a new source instead. Honestly, this is one of the coolest features about Streamlabs. You get a preview and everything of existing sources you already have. But we're going to click add a new source instead. We're going to call this Prompter Cam 1. Add source and add the camera. Not as good as the one I was using before, so it's not cooperating super well. There we go. Now we have two different camera views. And so we go back to that second chat scene we made. We hide the normal video capture scene. We're going to add a source and we're going to add a scene as a source. So come over here to media, scene, existing scene, add source, prompter cam, add source. We're going to drag this to the bottom of our list. And then we're just going to resize this one to fit where our other one was. Boom. And now we have two different scenes with the same graphics package in case we needed a second angle or what have you. We can also add the individual elements that are already in this scene collection to another scene. So we'll just make another one. I'll call it test. And then if we add, say, a media source, so just a media file, we should have, a bunch of these existing scenes, such as our webcam overlays, our Be Right Back screens, and things like that. Maybe you don't like the alerts that come with the package you've downloaded here. Maybe you want some sort of different alerts. You can add those independently as well. If we go to sources, obviously we have our alert box here as a source itself. which we can go into the settings for, and you can preview. See what it looks like. This is actually the Lo-Fi Cat alert box. So there you can preview what you already have, but then you can come over here to the overlays section and find just individual alerts if you want, and swap out your alerts in place of what came with the overlay you downloaded. So say I want these dark fire alerts instead. I can click install. Don't need alert or don't need the overlays. I just need the alert box. Install. And now, if we pull up our alert box and preview it again, we've got the crazy dark void one, which kind of works as like a contrast to the theme that we have now, because it's still like samurai themed, or ninja themed. It's just different color scheme. So you can swap those out if you like. You can also browse the App Store here. And this gives you a whole bunch of other stuff you can add into your streaming experience. And so there's a bot for greeting people. There's a tool for making emotes. Most of these will be available with Streamlabs Ultra. In the production tools section, there is a magic 8-ball. This would be a lot of fun. Viewers can ask a question with the ! 8-ball command. And there's a few other things you can do. You can customize the look. We're going to go ahead and install that real quick. Open the settings for it. Takes a minute to load. And you can see what it looks like by default. But we can customize the color, the contrast, all that kind of stuff. Ball color. What color do we want it to be? A rainbow? Why not? Rainbow 8-ball. Ball glow, shadow. You can customize the looks a little bit. You can customize what the answers are. All of that jazz. And then if you go into the editor and say add a new source, you can add the magic ball as a source. And then you can put it, say, kind of in your chat window. Obviously, me just throwing it on here looks a little tacky. But then if you pull up your chat, will I become a famous chef? Ask again later. I love it. It does a little shake animation. Neat little widget. There's lots of little things like that in the App Store and the overlays library that you can add to your stream that I think adds a fair bit. Now, if for some reason you already have files that you want to use for your stream layout and whatever, then you can make a new scene collection. That is adding a new scene. We're just going to make one from fresh, fresh, and then you're given a blank slate. And again, you'll want to manage your sources like we showed before. So display capture for your monitor, screen capture for a specific like region or window, game capture for individual games, video capture for your webcams. You'll want to manage those individually, and then you use the media file source for adding in your overlay packs. Say you have some from Nerd or Die or something like that. Again, full playlist link for the course will be in the description below. As always, remember to be kind, rewind.